Hello and welcome to the Late League Chat Show. It's your cozy content home that definitely doesn't miss weeks, but in my defense, I had a good excuse. I was sick. My voice was not going to handle like an hour of talking. So, as much as it sucked to have to miss last week, a necessary sacrifice so that the show may live on and hopefully continue its run. We already broke our streak, so it feels bad, man, but it is what it is. It's been a fun few weeks of LCS. To clarify, we are only going to talk about week 3 because that is the intent of the show. We're talking about things that just happened. We're unwinding, we're chilling, we're vibing, making sure, we're hanging out, getting to see where the LCS is at week on week. So week 2 is just a blur in my COVID-infected brain. It's okay, it will live on in our hearts. But I feel like not that much changed, actually. I guess C9 won more games. But apart from that, it doesn't feel like too much is changed. Maybe that the standings are closer than we thought they might be after week 1, which is always exciting. But we'll start off with the good stuff, the hot stuff. It's EG and GG. We'll definitely talk more about Evil Geniuses after. But this game was an absolute banger, which was not, I think, the thing we were expecting. I don't think anyone would look at this match and be like, oh yeah, this is going to be the most interesting, exciting draft extravaganza. Relatively back and forth, close until it wasn't a fair between a top team and Golden Guardians. But it was. And I think Golden Guardians deserve a ton of credit for being willing to experiment more in draft. And it's got them wins, right? Like Ole's Mundo got them a win when they wanted to take it. I believe that was last week. Inera has always been a coach who wants to push the envelope with his team, I feel like. And there's a lot of good infrastructure at Golden Guardians. And I think we're starting to see some of that pay off now with, things like Ole being willing to be more flexible and Blaze Olive feeling more confidence in his different picks. We saw this from him last year on his Tom Kench, or even last split maybe. And I think something like UNA, much more aggressive, much more interesting. Even though he's a decent control mage player, it's nice to see him actually play into a very scary mid laner in JoJo and actually do relatively well, at least in the early stages of the matchup, getting that solo kill. It's just nice that the Golden Guardians players are flexing their strengths a little bit more, and that the team is willing to rally around the more creative stuff that they're willing to do. This is a team that's good at pushing the envelope. I feel like they're in general a good litmus test team because they're generally playing aggressive early. Not always, but generally playing aggressive early. It's one of the things that Golden Guardians throughout at least recent years have been consistent at, even if they haven't been that good at closing out games and converting those early game advantages into wins. But they've generally been pretty good at getting leads. And I think this team is starting to show more creativity as well. So again, a pretty close game until it wasn't. EG are the kind of team where once the game runs away from you, they're probably going to beat you pretty soundly, especially given the differential in overall skill and experience, which I think is fair between these two teams. EG are quite a bit better and quite a bit more experienced and quite a bit more talented, I think it's fair to say, than Golden Guardians. But Golden Guardians are a team that you can see if they just cleaned a few things up, how good they could be. And that's always the case with them. But earlier than ever, I feel like it's starting to align for Golden Guardians, which is really good news. I think being adaptable is a strength that is not often used enough in the pro leagues. I think especially in LCS, where we can be pretty slow to adapt and adopt picks that are popular in other parts of the world, that are more at the forefront of the meta. So seeing teams in general just evolve throughout the weeks and want to play things that are more interesting, more exciting, more aggressive has been really fun to watch. And I liked Golden Guardians draft. It just wasn't going to win when they fell behind, and they fell behind. That's kind of what happened, right? There was some back and forth. They had some good moments. I think they actually played the early game pretty well. I think they navigated the mid game decently. And then as soon as they fell behind, the game was doomed. You just can't win that game with that comp, I don't think. The other thing that's nice, actually, is that Pridestalker is not the player I thought would play something like Zach. And I think he looked okay on the pick. I think he's at his obvious best when he's playing Assassin jungles, right? He looked great on Zed. I'm sure he'd be good on something like Kiana if that was a meta jungler. He looks a lot better on carries in general. And I think one of his big weaknesses was that he could only play one style well and maybe wasn't willing to branch out, especially if the meta didn't suit how he wanted to play. So something like Zach, in this kind of comp where Golden Guardians are really trying to push themselves, it's nice to see Pridestalker slot into a very different role than the one he commonly excels at. And in general, I think Pridestalker has been more aligned with his team this split than certainly the end of last spring, where he looked very out of sync with his team. And on the whole, Golden Guardians look pretty well organized. And at this game was a nice showing against EG. The other side, though, is that EG look really good. And it's kind of wild to see that this team hasn't slowed down much. Like, they lost. It was a cool win for CLG. My brain is remembering their loss correctly. But even that game felt like CLG doing CLG stuff, which, to their credit, is cool. But I wonder if we're starting to get more of the CLG, like, oh, maybe they are just good on these small subset of champions. I don't think that's true, but I think when they're playing teams that are expected to be above them in the standings, they can struggle when they're off of the really cutting edge stuff for them, or the stuff they're really comfy on. But I think CLG will be a pretty different team by the end of the split. I think it's just a matter of, will they be good enough to challenge the top 4, let's say? You know, will they be in the top 6? And if so, will they be good enough to challenge the top 4? And I think being top 6 for CLG is actually pretty impressive, considering we haven't had that many expectations for that team. But we won't talk about it much today, but I think the wheels have fallen off just a little for them. Whereas EG just seemingly don't stop. And it's extra wild because they still look really sloppy, like in a fun way. EG are really aggressive. EG are constantly trying to fight and test their limits. And I still feels like they're a little bit tired, right? And I'm sure this team will be potentially quite different after the break. This is, I think, the time where they've basically been working their butts off to get to this point so they can have this break finally, because they're intending to take one after MSI. As far as we know, didn't get a chance. This is from the things they've said publicly, right? This isn't insider info. And then we're going to take one later. And if you're going to take a break as an LCS team, not every team will, I'm sure, but it's going to be now when you have a full week. So EG, I think, will be much better rested, which will be good for their remaining run. Obviously, this is a team that is defending their title, that has eyes on Worlds, and that has started very hot in the season. So this is a team that wants to show how good they are, wants to have a strong regular season, which even though they won last spring, they didn't necessarily have. And EG this is momentum EG want to build off, but they're gonna stop a little, right? Because they're almost assuredly gonna take a break in this next week. I do think weirdly that might make them better though. If the game and the meta shifts a lot, obviously the teams that stay working throughout the break will be sharper, be a bit better. And I'm sure for some teams, they need the work. For other teams, they probably just want the work because they're degenerates and they can't stop. And only one team got sent to MSI, so it's going to depend on the players, depend on the team, depend on what the management and coaches kind of have as the vision for the team. We haven't really had a break like this in the LCS split, I think, ever, actually. The only time that's similar is Rift Rivals, which ended up as a break week. But if you went to Rift Rivals, you definitely didn't get a break. And I don't remember the teams that stayed back changing that much, but I do remember the teams who came back changing a decent amount, which makes sense. It's pretty disruptive to play a mini tournament in the middle of your split. But I don't think it shifted the needle too much. And I don't think this break will change much either. But if anything, I think EG will get better. just because they'll be able to reset. And they've actually done a pretty good job of catching up. I think one of the things that felt more true in week 1 that isn't as true now is that they were kind of figuring out what was good on the patch, because the game was very different from the game they'd been playing for 2 months at MSI. Everyone was kind of in the same boat where the game was pretty different. Durability update had happened, all these different changes had happened, but EG, publicly said they feel kind of behind, and I think they've caught up already. This game is kind of an indicator of their willingness to play different things. I think Swain is a champion we're finally seeing more of, which is good. Jojo obviously looking pretty good on that pick, although he was not the only Swain this weekend in the LCS. I don't know, it's a really impressive team, because every EG game you can be like, oh, that wasn't good. Like, you overreach in that spot. They make mistakes almost every game, and yet they still win. And they still look pretty good. Like, the way they close out games is really exciting to watch. And I can't even remember what game they played that was the closest. And I think even their loss was pretty close, if I'm remembering correctly. So it does feel like EG are going to get even better. Maybe not. Maybe the middle of the split they'll have a dip. I think at some point they have to slow down, because their teams are going to catch up to them, and they are tired. But not happening anytime soon. I hope for EG's sake that they make sure they're scaling appropriately, because you hear this from every team that wins. A lot of Pro League is about peaking at the right time. The splits were cool and all. I love the regular season, but every team pretty much looks at playoffs and international as the two big things they're trying to really show up for. Obviously, you have to do well in the regular season to set yourself up for those situations. But I think, especially thinking about our last 2 winners, 100 Thieves and EG, in summer of last year and spring this year, respectively, those were teams that people didn't expect to win necessarily, but had very good runs. And those are teams I would say peaked at the right time. And I think EG, despite this good start, are potentially in danger of burning out just a little bit. Although, I don't know. From everything we've seen from this team, they can adapt pretty quickly. It's crazy to think that that the whole team's getting better. Like, Danny and Jojo continue to get better. They're both having, I think, much better splits than we've seen from before. Jojo's literally played 1 split. And I think Danny's only played 2 in their entire LCS careers. So pretty impressive from them to still be looking good. Vulcan, I think, is getting more attention and is playing better. Impact's playing exceptionally well. Like, maybe one of his best years ever as a player. Obviously, his debut year in T1 was pretty good. He went on that run with Liquid where he looked pretty good. He had a year on Cloud9 where he looked pretty good. But I think this year is up there for Impact as far as individual ability and performance goes. He looks really, really good. But the player everyone is, I think, rightly talking about is Inspired, who has somehow not slowed down from MSI. He was the team's best player at that tournament. He still looks like the team's best player, even though his whole team is playing well. And I don't know how to stop this man. He's wild. Also, his content is excellent. If you haven't seen Expired doing interviews at the end of their games, you should. It's hilarious. Today's piece was exceptionally good, where he interviewed some guy you may have heard of called Inspired, which was pretty fun. But Inspired definitely was a player that did not live up to their accolades last split, but did get better as the split went on. And I feel like he's hit his peak and he's just still running at that level, which is impressive. And again, I think that's the worry with EG is that they look really good. We didn't think they'd look this good. They're fun to watch. They're really flexible. They've got a lot of different ways they can approach the game. They feel extremely complete for a team that is making obvious mistakes. And I think the one thing nobody wants is this team to let themselves down and crash, right? I think even now, thinking about their last international appearance this year, thinking about how good they look now, it would be real depresso to not see this team at Worlds. I think Impact going back, Vulcan going back, I assume Inspired going back, and then obviously Jojo for his first, and Danny for his. No, he missed actually. Oh, he Danny's first too, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, this is a team that's so exciting that it would be a shame to not see them represent NA internationally, is mostly what I'm trying to get at here. I hope this continues, and I'm curious to see how they are after the break. But I think they'll have a minor slowdown, probably, because taking a week off tends to do that to most people, but they'll bounce back pretty quickly if they even need to at all, and this will make them a better team in the long run, which is what they really care about. They care about winning again. They care about going to Worlds. So, EG are on the right track. They're super fun to watch. Very, very impressive. Today's game was excellent. More windy champions, please. In any lane. I'll take Yaspo in any lane, friends. Any of them. Which kind of brings us to the other side, in some ways, with Team Liquid. I have been very open about my personal doubts of Team Liquid. The sky is definitely not falling yet. It would have been real bad if they'd lost both their games. But I think even their lost 100 Thieves this weekend has the shades of the stuff I was worried about. Now, granted, 100 Thieves are a pretty good team. And they're a team that is in the discussion to finish in the top 3, right? They are one of the assumed 4 when we talk about what teams from NA are going to win the LCS this summer and qualify for Worlds, because that is the end goal for all 10 teams in one way or another. You know, Liquid, EG, 100 Thieves, C9. Those are the 4 teams. So they're, they lost to a team in that conversation, but I think the way in which they lost is worrying in some ways. And this is my big worry with Liquid, is it's just like, you're very talented, but I don't think Liquid can live up to their own expectations. Like, the pressure playing on Liquid must be immense. Even hearing Bwipo talk about, like, wanting to limit his champions more, which I think is smart. Like, you should only play the things you're absolutely best at when you're trying to have an incredible split and win. Liquid have not won in a long time now, which is unacceptable for a team that puts that pressure on themselves. Liquid have inherited the mantle of TSM, which was great when they were winning a lot, but it's like not a good place to be. And like, let's be honest, like Liquid have not had bad splits. Like, they've been in finals, they've been like top 3 or top 4 most of the splits since their last win. But it's like, but the first thing everyone thinks of is like, yeah, but you didn't win, so who cares? Because you spent so much money on this team, made so many changes, picked up basically the best available player that you could legally field on your team you have collected. And you have done that for years and years and years and years. And that was good enough to win you 4 titles in a row, and then Double If retired and you lost. Like, Double If's a good player. That's not the reason you haven't won yet, right? Like, it's just weird to me that like Liquid changed so much, but the team seems to be the same. And in a lot of cases, that's actually a compliment to their infrastructure, and they have a lot of it. Their ability to seemingly plug and play any player into their system and have them be on the same page, have extremely good understanding of how to play the map, how to trade well. Like, Liquid are very clean. I think we say clinical a lot when we talk about Liquid, and sometimes we also say boring. I mean, at least I say those things. And Liquid have shown they can speed the game up sometimes, but they are not speeding the current games up. So it's impressive that Liquid are very clean in the overwhelming majority of their games, but when you play to scale against 100 Thieves, which sounds like a terrible idea against a team like Team Liquid, and then get pretty effortlessly smacked in the mid to late game. Like 100 Thieves, I thought they were absolutely sprinting it, trying to outscale TL. I thought that was a fool's errand to play TL's game against TL. And 100 Thieves felt very confident in their scaling. And they were right. That's not good. if you're the team that is full of unbelievable talent across every position, who is also exceptionally good at controlling the map, at getting vision, at cleanly closing out games and playing slowly, that has always been the thing you are good at, even when you change players. To play a game, even against a team in the same class as you, right? Like 100 Thieves and TL are in the same class of team. I think it's fair to say that the 4 teams I mentioned, oh, actually, Cloud9 right now probably not in there, but at least the 3 teams I mentioned, right? EG, 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, they're in the same class. And people expect Cloud9 to be there as well, eventually. I don't know, man. This is the thing I worry about Liquid, is that like not enough will change for them to win. Because you've changed and done and spent so much and still haven't won, despite quite a lot of success in the standings. And I think it's pressure. I think playing for Liquid comes with incredible support, great facilities, wonderful infrastructure, probably easily, actually. I don't even know this, but this has to be true. Like, I'm gonna make an assumption that I assume is true, because I can't imagine a world where it's not, but the paychecks must be unreal to play on Team Liquid. Like, for a player going to play there, at least as far as your LCS career goes, you will never make more money playing on Team Liquid, I'm sure. They will never pay you more per minute than to play on Team Liquid. But the expectation is that in this team, where you get paid that much, where you have all the support you need, you win. And I feel like being in that point where your results feel so binary has to be paralyzing for some players. And that's my worry, is that Liquid is just going to collapse under its own weight again. And I hope they don't miss Worlds, because, oh boy, that'd be bad. And look, they're not doing badly right now, right? They're tied for second. Yes, they picked up some losses, and those losses are easy to worry about because of this team, because of who they are, but I don't know. It's so funny to watch a team where every win feels like a formality and every loss feels like the sky is falling, and then nothing matters until the end of the split for them anyway, because the expectation is that they're already going to be in the top 3 and that they should be threatening to win. But me sitting back thinking about that feels like a really shitty spot to be in. So I don't know, man. Liquid are interesting. This is going to be a fun team to watch. I mean, they look great after week 1. They look a little bit more mortal now in week 3, but still plenty of weeks to play. I'm sure Liquid won't take a break, if I had to guess. I don't know, but if I had to guess, Liquid are going to keep grinding because they're Team Liquid. But yeah, to your point, Night of Rohan, I agree. And I don't know how this is true for every iteration of Team Liquid. I feel like they're very good at doing the thing they do, and somehow they're not aggressive enough, despite how many different changes they have made, despite Bwipo being on this team and counterpicking constantly in spring, despite the raw talent and resumes of the players they recruit. I don't know how every Team Liquid team feels the same. It's like, blows my mind. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all, but something in the way these teams are built seems to produce the same team. And at one point, that was good enough to win the LCS 4 times in a row, which will never be done again. So that's pretty good. But I think they are missing some spice. I kind of want Bwipo back. I kind of want Hans and Core to run over more lanes, because I feel like they haven't really been doing that. I think like Bjergsen's always going to be a weird player for me because I know he has a champion ocean. Now he loves to call jungle pressure and try and attack people and really give people the hands in lanes, but he doesn't play like that in pro. And yeah, it's your point about Santorin. Like, yeah, he is a great counterpunching jungler. And like, to be fair, Team Liquid won with a good counterpuncher, right? They won with Xmithy, 4 times in a row. Yeah. Wow, 4 times in a row. Jeez, that's so crazy. I always forget that the core of that, the core of the Liquid that won 4 times was Impact, Xmithy, Double Lift. Those were the 3 players that stayed. They changed players They changed players twice on other end from memory. They changed a mid laner once, Jensen won twice, and they changed. They got Core over Ole, who also won twice. But yeah, I mean, you can do well with a jungler as smart as Santorin, but you need to find like more footholds into the game earlier on. So I don't know if Team Liquid are just doing this because like the meta says you can. I don't think that's going to be true in a couple of weeks. I think that's already less true now in week 3 than it was in week 1. But I don't know. Team Liquid are just so interesting to me. It's like the more things change, the more things stay the same with them. But they're still really good. Like I don't want to. Again, I'm not doomsaying this team. They're excellent, but I don't know. I'm gonna say it every week until I'm wrong. Is my hope. All right. So on a high note, I suppose. The old FlyQuest. Everyone loves FlyQuest. I hope everyone loves FlyQuest. I love FlyQuest. I was super high on FlyQuest preseason. I thought they were going to be like 5th, which is pretty high. And I think they went off today. That's for sure. Their weekend was really good. I think the 3 things about FlyQuest that I really enjoy. 1, I'm really impressed with how Philip is integrating into the team. I had not a lot of hope. Well, that's not true. I have plenty of hope for newer players. I just didn't have expectations for Philip, and I think the expectations that were set were pretty lukewarm. And I think that's a smart way to pitch your rookie player stepping in from academy, right? I think that's a good expectation to set for your fans, right? Hey, he's okay. He's good at this. He will get better, but don't expect too much. And he was good. He is good at the thing he was advertised as, which is team fighting and playing with the team. And he is not good at the thing he was not advertised for, which is laning. And then today he played Jace and kind of went off. And I don't think he necessarily went off in the 1v1, but he was showing more confidence, more aggression in certain spots, playing well with his team, syncing up with his jungler a little bit more. Philip's just a good time. Philip like single-handedly restored all faith I would ever need in NA Jace in one game. I mean, even the audacity to pick Jace as a rookie top laner. Rookie North American top laner. Actual factual North American player. That's some confidence that I don't have. And I'm glad they did it, because you gotta play the champions you want to play. You gotta play the matchup you think you're good. Sometimes you look silly, sometimes you'll be great. Today Philip was great. And he is integrating very nicely into this team that is going off in quite a nice way. Still plenty of room for FlyQuest, obviously, but this is a good... It kind of sucks for them that there's a break, actually. I don't know if they'll keep playing or not. I would guess they'll play like at least half of the week. We'll see. I guess we'll see. But this kind of feels like a little bit of a momentum stop for them, because I think this weekend especially they're picking things up. So the second reason I like FlyQuest, and this was the reason I liked FlyQuest coming into the split. It was the reason I liked FlyQuest last split. Young Tukoi, the French demon in mid lane. He's so good at the video game. And he's still really good. His Corki game, obviously, basically solo carried their first game, and then his Ari game was excellent. He was really good. Doesn't really surprise me. But this is a player that I think is... This is a player whose stock I thought might drop a little bit with the level of mid lane going up. a touch this summer. Obviously, Jensen is not where he should be, could be, yet, but he's still really good. Like I don't think Jensen's had an embarrassing return back into the LCS. I think he's still in the top half of the mid lane talent. I think Jojo's playing better. In general, like mid's a bit polarizing still. I think about half the league is good and the other half is not so good. And I think it's a little deeper than it was last split, but it was really shallow in spring. So yes, in some ways, Tukoi is like succeeding in not a vacuum, but like there is a power void a little bit for this position in LCS. But he's still really good and he's still playing really well. And I think he's showing off both in lane and with his team. And obviously, Jose deserves credit for playing much better and playing with his team better. And he's talked about that as well. But super big fan of Tukoi. I think he's really good. He might be... I think Jojo's split's going to be too good for him to be the first All-Pro mid laner, but he might be up there. I wouldn't be shocked if he was an All-Pro mid laner again for LCS. He's really, really good, but we'll see. He's got some competition, especially if the like top 4 teams play to their expected level, right? Because then you have, if Arba, Jensen, Bjerg, and Jojo, who's already playing well, are playing to like the level we expect from them, or that we know they can hit, it's going to be tricky for Tukoi to stand out in an All-Pro vote, but he's good enough to be better than those players. I think right now he is better than at least Arba and Jensen. Maybe Bjergsen? I don't know. I need to watch Bjergsen's games more closely. I don't really have an opinion on like his laning or his play right now. He just kind of exists and he's good, so I don't know. Anyway, the last reason is that it's nice to see the bot lane doing their thing a bit more. Obviously, Afro getting the necessary praise today, but it is nice for Johnson to be stepping up a little bit more. He's had a much better week than he has before, and I think Johnson was always the big question mark for me. And he's the kind of player that like we saw some good stuff from, but I don't know. I was never like impressed by Johnson, but I was like, he's not costing me the game, right? If I'm watching him play, but he's not necessarily winning me the game either. And I think he's having more moments where he's carrying, and in general, he's playing quite consistently. And I think that's good analysis there, Knight, where Fly are very solid and pretty consistent as a team, which will get you pretty far in the LCS. Probably won't win you the split. It probably won't get you in like distance to win. But FlyQuest also have enough talent to threaten the teams above them, right? If I assume they're 5th, that's my preseason expectation for FlyQuest. They're the 5th best team in the LCS. And we all know the 4 teams that are above them, right? Some combination of TL, 100 Thieves, C9, EG. It doesn't take much from the foundation you already have that's good to threaten those teams in the postseason when that rolls around. I think Tukoi is that good. He can carry you games. Jose definitely can carry you games. Philip, untested. Maybe can carry you games. And maybe Johnson too, although I have a little less faith because I have more tape on him. I have less tape on Philip. I have less experience with the newer player that you assume is a bit more moldable. But players can always improve. Players can always surprise you. It's fun to talk about young talent, but age does not matter. It is, what is your team environment? What is your support system? Who are you as an individual? You can always push yourself. I think Dokla's the shining example of that. This split, even though CLG are on a little bit of the slidey slide. But FlyQuest are a really exciting team. To me, it's not a question of like, are you in the top half? I think you are. It's like, how far are you? Because the assumption is that you're going to be the bar, I think. You are the team. You must be better than to have a shot at the top 4. And you cannot win the LCS this summer if you cannot take down those teams, right? So already pretty tricky to be a good LCS team, given what we already know about the makeup. But FlyQuest definitely in with a shot. Really, really fun team to watch. Very refreshing, and seem to be scaling. I hope for their sake it continues. But I will watch even the Frenchman's Corki. That's how good he is at the game. I despise Corki. He's so boring. Corki has lost the overwhelming majority of his games this weekend, and I could not be happier. And at least for today, although I think this might actually be the whole weekend because I checked it right before I went live. I think the only 2 players to win on Corki this split are Tukoi, who won Player of the Game, and Joshua Pune. That should tell you all you need to know about when you should pick Corki. At least players are playing a little bit more. At least people are like playing into Corki more, and I think trying to exploit how little Corki does in lane by playing more exciting champions. I don't know. I can't get into it. There's only so many times it's fun to watch Ludens explode one team, and then it's not. It's like fun once, like one game every 2 weeks. We had our fill of Corki Rockets this weekend. I don't need any more. I hope we see more Windy champs though. I guess I'll talk about Jensen. I didn't have a topic prepared for the last one. I had a couple different things I thought about, but I've noticed I often put a player in this slot, and I think it's time to talk about Jensen. Jensen fans around the world, I hope are not too sad, and I don't think you should be. I say this as someone that is a big Jensen enjoyer. I've watched a lot of Jensen games. I am the voice responsible for Jensen's darkest LCS moment. And then we did a show about it after too, just to really rub it in. Years later, just to remind him of the Zonyas. So yeah, I watched a lot of Jensen's gameplay. Big fan. Jensen has certainly changed his style a little, and I think it's more to do with the team he's on than his personal preferences. I do think that at some point, Jensen's aggression didn't get the better of him, but I think teams just got so into trying to camp him that he stopped trying to outmuscle his lane opponent because he knew that it was going to be a 1v2, not a 1v1. And he could win the 1v1, but he didn't want to have to 1v2 literally every game. And then, he's been on different teams. I think he's had certain junglers that are really good at enabling him. I think Contracts was that for him in his rookie year. I think Blabber can be that for him. Although, at least with the way Cloud9 are currently playing, Blabber isn't really doing that. And mid lane's not really that lane right now. But I'm just really happy that Jensen is playing a little bit more aggressively, actually. He definitely needs a practice game, it seems like, on his champions. His first Yone game was very different from his second Yone game, and his first Yasuo game today, very different from his ability on the champion. He is much better on Yasuo than that game indicates, but Jensen, I think, is very clearly scaling into the split. And I thought C9 would be a very good team because all their players were proven, and Jensen and Sven would not take too long to adjust to their roles. And I think that has been somewhat true, or mostly true, for Sven, and has been slightly less true for Jensen, but still pretty much true. I don't think Jensen is that bad, and I don't think anyone thinks he's having a terrible split, but he's definitely not at the peak yet. And it'll be curious to me to see how good Jensen will be by the end of the split, because Jensen is almost always a top 2 LCS mid laner. That has been his career as a player. And that's with Bjergsen next to him, usually above him by most pundits. But he has been either the best or second best mid laner in almost every split of the LCS he's played. Definitely not his first split. He was not good. in that split. But in general, his career is really impressive in the LCS. I don't think he'll be that good by the end of this summer, but he is one of the league's best international players. I don't think he's ever missed Worlds, actually. So I think even in his first split, I think that was the high jungle miracle run that still got Cloud9 there, because Cloud9 only missed once in organization history, and that was since they joined the league. Obviously, there were Worlds that they were not a team for. They did miss the Niski roster missed. Niski, Licorice, that Sneaky Zazel, Flabber. That roster missed after winning Spring, which was a tragedy. Or was it Sven, actually? Might have been Sven. I don't think Sneaky was on that team. I think that was like the Neo Cloud9, like completely new. Anyway, they missed that summer in 2020, I'm pretty sure. Because I think they finally won, and they were won at home because of the pandemic, and everyone's like, woo. And then, yeah, next year, Perks came and they won again in Spring. And then they made Worlds. Anyway, Cloud9 don't miss Worlds often, is the whole point I'm trying to make. Jensen is among the LCS's most successful international players ever. Arguably, he's the best player, actually, from LCS to ever play international. Like, obviously, we have, like, world champions and lots of talented players, but I would say, like, since joining the LCS, Jensen has been one of the top performers from the league consistently in his career. That was true on Cloud9. That's true on Team Liquid. So my assumption for Cloud9 was that even if they stumbled, that they would be a top 3 team, because I cannot see a world where Jensen misses Worlds. And he is not in form right now. But I think by the end of the split, he'll be there. And I'm just happy he's playing slightly more aggressive champions and less control mages, because he had a career-defining split on basically only Orianna, which was very impressive, but I got really over watching his Orianna after a split. So, we'll see, I suppose. But yeah, Cloud9 are a fun team. I think they'll be okay, but their games are going to get wonky. I don't know, man. This team's just wild. I think it's funny. I think everyone was like, "Oh, EG are going to be the top team that will struggle out of the gate because of MSI and everything." And I think the truth is that C9's roster, despite having lots of good pieces, was always going to take a while to gel. And it's good that they picked up wins already, because especially starting 0-3 with your starting roster being put together so late was always going to be just mathematically tough for your chances. But it's pretty clear that Cloud9 needs some time. Needs some time. I'd be willing to bet they'll play, actually, this in the break week. They seem like a team that could benefit from the scrims. I mean, they're already behind every other team, so getting a week back in some ways is going to be good for them. And this team will be this team's already fun to watch. They're going to be really fun to watch by the end of the split. But I don't know how good they're going to be. But I guess I think at least they're going to be top 3, because Jensen don't miss Worlds. That's my very exciting, but perhaps not that ambitious prediction. Anyway, that's it for the Late League Chat Show. Thanks for hanging out. It's always fun. You can catch this on Twitch or YouTube or podcast platforms. You can hear my voice. You can see my face. You can do both at the same time, if that's a thing you want to do. For now, we're done with the show. We're vibing. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you all next week, maybe. We don't have the LCS on, so maybe not. But maybe we'll do maybe do a special break week vibe show. We'll see. Peace.